So the words that Linda just read for us from the wisdom of Ecclesiastes, it sounds like words written for tired hearts. You know, what has been is what will be. There's nothing new under the sun. The teacher of wisdom looks around and names our fatigue, the sameness, the cycles, the feeling that, we've tried this before. And yet there is another sentiment that there is no remembrance of former things, that we ache for the past, but can't quite hold it in the present. As we hear these words, we're faced together with a stark reality that the nostalgia that we often hold onto in our lives is a lovely storyteller and reminder of who we are, but a poor driver when we're called in our days to create something new. And then, almost like a window opening, the teacher says, God has made everything beautiful in its time. Not our time, but its time. The same book that names our weariness also whispers that there is a beauty coming that cannot be forced or contrived by us. So today we celebrated Promotion Sunday in our 8:30 service into our 9:45 hour. It was a whole gaggle, more than a gaggle of kids up here. And they were just making all sorts of noise and screaming and crying and laughing. And it was just a beautiful time. And we blessed for them a step forward in their lives. We affirmed that seasons have their time, that kindergarten has its time, third grade has its time, middle school, God forbid, has its time, and then senior year has its time, and that God meets us in each. As a mom of 3, now having for the first time a teenager in the house as of today, 13 years old, I know the tug of trying to grab the winds of time. Now we have these new phenomena that come in our house, like the sighs and the eyes that give disgust or embarrassment or suspicious looks that put us, all of us who have experienced this now with the job description of ultimate translator of that which cannot be named, right? Still, I've wanted to freeze a height mark in the door frame and just let it stay there as it is forever. But God keeps inviting all of us to celebrate the next pencil mark on the door frame whenever it comes. We don't force these seasons. We receive them. We don't rush the stories of our lives. We turn the page with the people we love around us in faith. So we've been tracking with Ecclesiastes all month with different ideas that this wisdom teacher gives us. And this whole work is honest. It's honest about the wind, or I think of it almost as energy that we try to catch in our lives. We know that ache, too, where memories we long to have lived again grow brighter the farther away they get from us. It's like mist. You see it, and you want to hold it, but it slips through your fingers. And the truth is, when we stop clutching at the wind, our hands are free and available to receive what is actually there: the table, the neighbor around us, the laughter of children, the God who still gives gifts to a broken world. Scripture hums this same tune elsewhere from the Psalms in Psalm 90. It says, "Teach us to number our days, O God, that we may again receive the heart of wisdom." Not to make us fearful in our lives or overly anxious, but attentive. If life won't sit still for us, then love becomes a way of paying attention to what is here, now. Ecclesiastes loosens our grip so that we can receive what this day is offering. So some of you know this summer I did take a bit of time away for a renewal leave. And on the first day that I woke up, I had plans, but the first day I just kind of left blank. And my husband happened to be working from home. And when I woke up, I came into the living room and he said, "Look there." And on our coffee table was a big old basket. And in it, it had all sorts of gifts that I wasn't expecting. It was a Protestant rosary prayer cross. It was scented candles and blank journals that I could write in, books that he had found from ChatGPT, putting in clergywoman that needs a little help, whatever. It was just wonderful and so thoughtful. And one of the things in the basket was a gift certificate to a month, 4 weeks of pottery classes. And I looked at him and I said, what's this? Why? And he looked at me and he said, "Sweetie, straight up, you need a hobby. You need to do something else other than work." And so I was like, okay, babe, I'll follow your direction. And so for 4 weeks, I spent time in a pottery class at a wheel, spinning around with people I didn't know, strangers who became friends, who all too found themselves in a place where they didn't know quite what they were doing, but they felt drawn to it. And through all of it, through times where I was able to create something pretty cool and meaningful. You can come up here and look at them later. Even a matcha bowl here, and was able to create some neat things, but these represent many more failures, or what we might call learning opportunities, right? And I learned quickly that the clay that was in my hands, spinning around on this wheel, tells the truth about your hands and about your posture to the things around you. For me, these pieces didn't come with just minimal effort. It required deep attention. I found my usual sin was pressing way too hard and too fast because I wanted to make as many things as possible, right? And when you press too hard, you can warp it or make it so thin it won't even stand up to drying out and being painted and fired. And in the same way, if you take your hand off of it for too long, it can also collapse. The first touch that you have is just putting it on the wheel itself and beginning to center it. The clay wobbles until you actually steady it with some steady pressure. Maybe even putting your elbow, as my instructor told me, on your knee that can be kind of an anchor to the rest of the strength of your body to give it some kind of peace in its own form. And so then comes the firm and gentle support, the steady pressure, and then you gently kind of move it and change it, and you try to stay patient and give it enough time to adjust to every nudge that you might make. Because you don't force a cup or a bowl or a plate or a chalice into being. You invite it slowly to become. Sometimes even when you plan to make one thing, it becomes another thing, and you have to just accept that outcome as if it was meant to be. You trim what's extra when all is done, and then finally the kiln, the real heat that doesn't destroy, but it cures. On the wheel, there's motion and pressure and water and heat like life, but yet no hurry. The difference between breaking and becoming is often how the hands rest on the clay. God knows something about this too. God knows something about the way that we are molded in our own stubborn, wobbly, wonderful lives. And I hear Ecclesiastes' words in this as we think about how a simple process can connect to life. That there's a time for centering, a time for trimming, a time for the kiln, and a time to wait. Because beauty has a calendar of becoming that we don't plan or write. So what does any of this have to do with play or creativity even in our lives? Well, everything. Play isn't a frivolous act in itself. In my own life, I've found whether it's pottery or playing with my kids or going into painting or doing any other kind of thing that gets you out of your head and begins to use your body and helps you to become more human. Play is the rehearsal room for where trust finds its voice. Trust in God, trust in ourselves. Because that play does release outcomes, except if you're playing pickleball. Some people are really, really committed to winning in that game. It loosens our white-knuckle grip that tires the soul. We don't abandon the wheel. We rest our hands differently upon it. It also helps in practice with two other holy postures: attention, where children notice what adults step over. It sharpens our sight, our knack for noticing, and teaches us to be present to one another, to this neighborhood, this campus, to this moment, not the one we wish we had. And finally, delight. That joy in itself doesn't deny pain, but it refuses to let fear or anxiety or our own overfunctioning to have the last word. When we laugh or sing or share a meal or create, our hearts become more pliable in life, more like clay that actually can take shape by the maker. The wisdom teacher returns us to the theme: to eat and drink and to find enjoyment is God's gift. Delight is like water to the clay, keeping us workable, sometimes even relaxed, and saving us from turning pressure in our lives to ultimate panic. So the invitation today for us isn't just to paste on a smile or pretend like the kiln of our lives isn't hot and sometimes unbearable, but it's maybe one that is simpler and even more brave. To put our lives actually back on the wheel in the first place, to let God center us, being that anchoring and steady force and presence, and to learn, however slowly, the firm but gentle way of God, so that we can reflect God's way out in the world in all we do. So friends, we can't catch the wind of time, but clay in good hands, in our hands, can become a vessel in its own way. The teacher is right. Life can feel like a never-ending circle or wheel or loop. And the teacher is just as right that God has made everything, even you, beautiful in your time. So today, may we keep our hearts pliable long enough to notice what is emerging and to shape and be shaped by it to serve this present age in which we stand. May our life together in the world, in our church, in your family, or maybe for you students, in the chosen family that you are only now beginning to create. May they all have a hint of play and creativity so that in our work together, we may find our pathway to freedom, our hands steady, our hearts soft, and our eyes wide open. Amen. Friends, you are invited to continue to be followers of Christ. You are invited to, especially if you are a guest among us, new among us, or perhaps have been trying this community out for a time and it feels a little bit more like home. You are invited to go deeper in whatever way God calls you. If that going deeper means joining the church today, maybe making a fresh start in aligning yourself to the ministry of University United Methodist Church, we'd love to invite you forward to the aisle and to the altar rail so that we can welcome you as we have so many others.